Welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. I'm Danielle Van, a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach, meditation teacher, and author. And this is your go-to show for a powerful blueprint of personal growth and empowerment, where we're digging into the 5 master areas of your life: emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and financial health and well-being. So if you're tired of feeling stuck and ready to break through the barriers holding you back, whether it's trauma or you simply don't have the tools, you've found the right place. We're combining Eastern and Western medicine with real, raw, unapologetic conversation to shake up your mindset, elevate your life, and help you take action towards the very best version of yourself. Today is a very special episode as I sat down with Larry Sprung, the host of the Miltin Mindset Podcast, as he shares the impact of suicide on his and his family's life and how his work since has changed access to tools to help support you in times of desperation. Together, Larry and I unpack the warning signs, hand over tools for supporting yourself and loved ones, and talk about actionable advice on how to navigate these darkest moments. Whether you're struggling right now or you just want to be a better ally, this episode provides hope, understanding, and the message that you are never alone. Together, we can build a world where mental health is a priority and suicide prevention becomes a part of the everyday conversation. Let's not waste another moment. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. All right, we're having a conversation that all of us that work in mental health struggle to have a lot of times, not because we don't want to, but because we care deeply for the people that we treat, for the people that come in our office every single week who go through things, and we all go through life, and none of us escape it without 1, a broken heart, or 2, some kind of trauma. And we are talking about suicide today. We're talking about your personal experience. We're talking about the signs that we can look for and the conversations that should be had. So Larry, please tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about what you do. Talk about your personal story and your connection as to the work you do and why.
Yeah. So thank you very much for having me, Danielle. And most importantly, thank you for using your platform to talk about this, because I think it's with conversations like the one we're going to have today is our path to helping people, a lot of people. So thank you for that. So first and foremost, I'm a husband to Denise of 24 going on 25 years, and a father to Zach and Jeremy, who, my family is my why. And I just happen to be somebody who also is in wealth management. So we work with people all the time, working with them in determining their why, their goals, their objectives, trying to work on reaching them financially. And also, because of my experiences, which we'll talk about, we also talk about their, the emotional and mental impacts of their decisions in terms of, retirement and things of that nature. But to give you kind of a 10,000-foot view as to why I'm here today, 20 years ago, September, I lost my brother-in-law to suicide. He was suffering from bipolar disorder, and like many people out there, was unable to find something that would help him and look past this deadly disease. And as a result of that, upon his demise, we basically, my wife and I, it was her brother, committed to not having him go quietly. And these conversations like we're having now weren't really had as prevalent in 2004 when he passed away. So we made a dedication that we wouldn't let him go quietly, and we started sharing his story and telling it. And more people we spoke to at that time were like, oh yeah, my uncle, the family talks about him dying in a car accident, but we really know what happened, and whispering about it. And we were like, hey, listen, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but we're going to talk about it loudly. And as a result, we've raised a lot of money that's helped a lot of, that's done a lot of good things. that have funded research grants, and we formed the Keith Milano Memorial Fund at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention,
Mm.
which is one of the largest nonprofits out there. And I had the pleasure of sitting on the board for about 14 years on their national board. And today I still sit on their investment and finance committee. And it's still something that's, 20 years later, very important to me. And I can
Mm.
see the progress of what we're all doing. And,
Yeah.
we always want things to happen more quickly than they are, but we're definitely making progress, which is great.
Yes, we definitely are making progress. You used this term that I want to point out because it gave me chills. It's something that I believe in. It's something that I put on the table every single day, and it's I will not go quietly. I will not let the story go quiet. And if I put my mindset and my energy and my focus on this thing, whatever it might be, I have the power to use my experience in a healthy way. How healing was it for you and your wife to make that decision that in my grief, in my loss, I will not sit still?
Yeah, I think it very much so. It gave us a purpose.
Yeah,
Uh, and, we know what our experience was. And,
right,
you know, nobody exactly knows what Keith, my brother-in-law's experience was, to the
right.
T, but we saw it through his, the way he verbalized it to us, and we saw and heard what he felt and what he went through. And I'm sure that wasn't, but a scratch of the surface of what he was
Right.
experiencing. Uh, but we wanted to make sure that others, didn't have to experience what we experienced. And, his legacy lives through the lives of all these people that
Yeah.
we've had these conversations with. And I know for a fact, like I mentioned in the upfront about the money that we've raised and the
Yeah.
good, and more importantly than any dollar we've ever raised is the fact that we know for a fact that there have been people who've reached out to us about their friends, family, acquaintances,
Yeah.
and they're alive today because of the things we help them walk through as far as
Hmm.
finding resources, support, where to go to, which is a very difficult thing. So
Hmm.
every day he lives on through those people and through all the works that we're doing, through suicide prevention, efforts.
One, we don't have enough mental health counselors because many of us burn out, and that's true.
Mhm.
We carry the load of everything that these people are going through. And while we're trained to bring some stillness and awareness to our experience, we struggle with overcare as well. And resources are not free, they're not cheap, and they are hard to find in many communities. Can we talk a little bit about what you all experienced, what you felt was going on, or was it just kind of all of a sudden this big shock that this occurred?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's always a shock whenever or
Hmm.
whoever, right? You talk
Right,
to the family who's like my mom battled cancer for 13 years and ultimately
right,
succumbed to that, right? It was a shock when she passed, but when you step away from the situation, was it really a shock? She
right,
was ill for a long time, and this is
right.
no different. So I think it was a shock in that moment, but looking back, there were definitely issues, right? He had all the support that he needed as a person. So, if you were an outsider looking in, number one is he was a, 27-year-old good looking guy, went to the gym just about every day, happy go lucky. So if you
Hmm.
didn't know, you didn't know. You thought he
Right,
was a happy soul. But the family knew, and he leaned on us, and we gave him the support. My wife went to many of his doctor's appointments with him,
right.
to make sure that he was supported by us. So he had the support that he would have needed.
Right.
In my view, one of the turning points for him was. At one point, he said that he was thinking about harming himself, and it happened to
Mm.
be right around, I believe it was Easter weekend, and they told him they had to hold him for mandatory 72 hours or what
Right.
have you, and they brought him into the hospital. And because it was a holiday weekend, they didn't have the staff or the capacity
Mm-hmm.
for all the people there. So they combined multiple floors of people onto
Mm.
one floor. And he was with folks who were schizophrenic,
Yeah.
uh, you know, definitely mental challenges, disorders, etc. That, he in his mind was far worse than he was and he would ever
Right.
be. And my wife and I recall him looking at us and saying, I guarantee you, I will never end up here again. He goes, I am not going to
Mm,
end up like that. And I'm not
right.
going to end up here. And we think that that event of being in that hospital with these other folks
Sure.
really was harmful to him and not helpful to him.
Yeah.
And ultimately he came out and we continue to watch him. But and listen, I had a conversation with him, my wife and I, the evening before he passed away. He called our house. He was out and about, and you could tell he
Mhm.
sounded a bit manic. We never thought we were going to wake up the next morning and hear what we
Right.
heard, but we did. And essentially, so to answer your question, it wasn't necessarily a surprise. I think for me, the biggest surprise was, really understanding, because I had never experienced somebody who, at least that
Right.
I knew, that had a mental illness. I never experienced somebody who lost somebody, because it wasn't really something we talked about it, or
Hmm.
experienced somebody dying by suicide. And it was hard for me to understand that. I don't understand. He was ill. He had a
Right.
disease, which my impression at that time was it wasn't something that would kill you.
Right.
And ultimately it was his demise, right? And
Hmm.
that was really a changing point for me in terms of understanding that, and as a result, being much more vocal. So
Mm.
it definitely was not a surprise overall, but at the same time, we were trying to do, and I think we know we were trying to do, the whole family was really trying to do anything and everything we could potentially
Yeah.
do to prevent the outcome that ended up taking place.
Mm. Yeah. It's so interesting because many people don't understand that one mental illness of any kind is hidden. It's not like we wear it as a badge. We don't necessarily walk around. It has a lot of shame to it for a lot of people. Many people who are in the experience of wanting to take their own lives aren't talking about how they're going to take their own lives. It's generally, at least for us, when we're hearing somebody talk about that, we're like, okay, we're still communicating. We're actually a little safer than we think we are. And then it's these hidden kind of agendas that we start worrying about, where we see this tailoring off of the mindset, like you're talking about. When you received the news, because this is something that a lot of people go through, was there some self-blame, or was there the experience of we are going to do something about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk for myself
Yeah,
personally. At that time, I felt like, and I felt like as a family,
yeah,
everybody really did everything they possibly could
right.
to help him in every way. And, it was one of those situations where it was like, if it could happen to him,
Hmm.
somebody who had the support, right? Because there are plenty
Right,
of people out there that weren't like my brother-in-law Keith, that had
right.
his sister going to his doctor appointments with him,
Yeah.
that had him coming over on his lunch break to take a nap and lay down on their couch at their house.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people that didn't have that support, or don't have that support. So there was no, we didn't feel that way. We felt like, hey, if this could happen to him and he had all of this support, how
Yeah.
about those folks that don't have that infrastructure and support?
Hmm.
We have to start talking about this, and there's got to be a better way.
Agreed. Let's talk about the better way, because you took that experience and created something so beautiful. Let's talk about the foundation. Let's talk about the resources that are available, and how, if someone's listening and they're saying, I don't have the support, how we can tap into some of that.
Yeah, so the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has been around since the 80s, and
Hmm.
it was founded on the basis of research. So
Hmm.
originally, it was a research organization that basically helped fund scientific studies around mental health and mental health conditions and suicide. And now it's really morphed into a much greater and larger organization
Right.
where the research is definitely a component. They're one of the
Hmm.
largest supporters financially of research. And in addition to that, they've added resources for survivors, meaning
Yeah.
people who've lost somebody to suicide, like we did as a family, and also to
Right.
help others who may be experiencing, mental health challenges. They're not a they're not a support group, they're not a
Right.
therapy group, but they're really in these three areas, and they've created a ton of tools, a ton of resources, no matter where you are in the spectrum in terms of somebody that's experienced a family member dying by
Right.
suicide to you yourself having, mental challenges or struggles. There's a ton of resources to help support you. And those are all found at their website, which is afsp.org, adamfranksampaul.org. And, no matter where you live in the US, there's a chapter near you. We have chapters in all 50 states. We do community walks in every state. There's a big
Mm-hmm.
national walk. So there's a lot of resources there. And what my wife and I decided to do early on was, rather than reinvent the wheel and create our own nonprofit,
Yeah.
we were very impressed with what AFSP was doing. So we
Mhm.
created the Keith Milano Memorial Fund at AFSP. So basically, those funds are housed under the AFSP nonprofit, any monies that we raise. And then we have the ability to help allocate those funds to different projects and different studies. One of the things
Mm.
that we've funded in recent years was, you or your listeners may have seen the Seize the Awkward campaign. It's been
Mm.
on TV, it's been
Yeah.
on Instagram.
Yeah.
So that was a joint collaboration between AFSP and the Ad Council, and we helped add funds to help that ad campaign get off. So those are
Mm.
some of those things that we've helped. We've also funded research studies and videos on bipolar disorder, et cetera. But there's been a lot of great things, and AFSP is like truly the leader in this space. When I started with them on the board, they had like a $6 million budget. And when I
Mm-hmm.
exited the board, and I think probably around probably this year, their budget's somewhere upwards of about $50 million. So the
Wow.
good the good news is they went from 6 to 50. And
Right.
at the same time, the bad news is they went from 6 to 50, right?
Yeah. There
Because
was a reason. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Hopefully they put themselves out of business. That's really what the ultimate goal
Mhm.
would be.
Beautiful. That takes so much time. It takes so much dedication. It takes so much desire to see active change happening. We talked about research. Let's talk about these things that you've learned along the way of what somebody out there with a family member who is struggling may look for, if you want to share.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I think, first I'd like to say, and we talked about this up front, I'm not
Hmm.
a doctor. I'm not a
Yeah,
physician. I'm trained in no way. I'm just trained in life, right? I saw a
right,
family member go through this. I've seen other friends, family members, and associates who've had experiences that have come to us, and we've
right.
tried to assist them. So this is all experiential, right? And I
Hmm.
think the most important thing for all of us is, I think of the New York City subway slogan, right? See
Hmm.
something, say something, right? That whole
Right,
slogan. If you see something, and this is no different, right? You know your family member, you
right.
know your best friends, you know those people that you see at work every
Yeah,
single day.
yeah,
If something looks not right, then it's probably not right. And
right.
I think all of us have this level of uncomfortability about potentially asking, what may be perceived as invasive questions, or
Yeah.
maybe not in our wheelhouse, maybe not
Hmm.
pertinent to us. But at the same time, what I've learned is many of these folks who are having struggles, trials and tribulations,
Right.
many times it only takes one thing,
Hmm.
one person
Yeah.
one person to outreach, and that could change the whole course of this individual's life. And I think based upon that, we have to risk the relationship at that uncomfortable moment, going back to that
Hmm.
Seize the Awkward campaign, seizing that
Yeah.
awkward moment and say something. Hey, is everything okay? And not
Yeah.
stopping there, right? Because everybody's initially, oh yeah, I'm great. Okay,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Well, are you really okay?
Yeah.
I literally had I was having drinks with somebody over the weekend, and he was, I don't know why, maybe it's because of what I've done and these things I've talked about, and he
Sure.
was started talking about his mental health, and I said to him,
Mm.
I said, "Are you okay?" And he looked at
Right.
me, "Yeah, I'm great." I'm like, "Are you really okay?"
Yeah.
And then it came out he's seeing a therapist, and he
Hmm.
started kind of haphazardly, and he wasn't sure it was for him. And then he went from 1 hour a week to 2 hours a week, and he feels great. It's kind of
Right.
changed his life.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of things that I think we have to kind of, take on the uncomfortable and have those conversations, and not just those
Mhm.
surface level. Dig a little bit deeper, not with everybody, but if you see that person
Yeah.
who's not their usual, they're off, that's the opportunity to step in and have that conversation and see if maybe you can have an impact on their life.
Beautiful advice. I always say lean in. You have to lean in. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to follow that intuition, that gut feeling of, I need to ask a question. And that way, it's out of your mind, it's in their hands, and you open the space, a safe space, because many people who are struggling with mental health don't have that safe space. There's something else I want to say, particularly with you talking about going to drinks with a friend and that, that conversation, willing to lean in. Many suicide does not have a face, right? It's male, female, whatever you identify as, right? It is a thing that hits all of us. But I want to say this, most men are taught to just say, everything's fine,
Mhm.
stuff it down, don't feel your feelings. There's nothing wrong here. Man up. That is such a dangerous
Bad
slogan.
message.
Yeah, it is, right? Like we don't allow our gentlemen to feel and be okay in their feelings. Everything has to have a space. We can't hold everything in. So, especially, women are much more likely to talk about their feelings. But if you see your male counterparts, your husband, your best friend, your cousin, your brothers, your brother-in-laws struggling, like you said, if something's not quite right, ask the question and don't be willing to stop at the, yeah, I'm fine. No, you're not. It's okay to dig.
Chances are you're right. Something's wrong, right?
Yeah, there's a reason why you picked up on that energy to begin with.
Right.
Absolutely. So if we lean in, we get uncomfortable. What have you found? I mean, obviously, that conversation for you this weekend went somewhere. Did you walk away feeling like I need to do more, or what was your thought process?
I mean, in this particular situation, I felt like they were in good hands because it
Good.
sounded to me like they had a plan, a positive plan, right, to
Mhm.
keep their mental health on a good track.
Yeah,
And I like talking about this all the time because I think that this is important, right? I think a lot of people when they start hearing people talk about this, or they hear about mental health issues or
right.
things of this nature, they think of permanence, right? This is a
Yeah.
permanent issue. And the reality is there's no difference between me or my brother-in-law. The only
Hmm.
difference is how he processed different things that he saw and observed versus
Yes.
how I processed it, right? We could
Yeah.
see and experience the same exact thing. And to him, it could have been the sky falling. And to me, it was like, oh, no big deal. It's just how we process it. With that being said, there are going to be points in all of our lives. It doesn't matter, who you are, where you are, what you
Yeah.
are, doesn't matter. There are going to be periods in your life that you're going to have struggles.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a permanent thing. So
Right.
it could be as simple as, we experience through our business, right? People have a year, right? A year where they buy a new house, they
Yeah.
change jobs, they relocate, three things, and it's very stressful. And it doesn't mean that they're going to have a mental challenge for their entire lifetime. It may
Hmm.
just be getting some assistance to help walk them through what's taking place in that year and then
Right.
moving on.
Right.
And they may never seek or need help again. So I think sometimes we think, oh, well, if I go seek help, I need help for the rest of my, well, no, depending
Right.
upon where you are in that continuum and what your struggle is, it may be something that's just going on in your life temporarily that
Right.
you just need to work past. So I think that that's important because so many people I feel are focused that once I go, I always have to go and I'm never going to be right. And that's not
Right.
necessarily true. With the
Yeah.
right people, the right situation, you can move past any,
Hmm.
mental hurdle potentially that you have.
Yeah. At least for me as a therapist, I don't want to keep you in my office forever. I don't. I want you to get the tools that you need and get out there and live your life to the fullest. We've mentioned mental health crisis or mental health diagnoses as something that can lead towards suicide. But you know as well as I do, especially you doing what you do in the financial world, finances can lead to people feeling like there is no way out. Our emotional health, there's so many different things. There's a sign in your office that I love, being a guest on your show, seeing you now. No, what did you do today that brought you joy? Yep, I love that sign. We're talking about this in a way that our mindset is impacted by the way that we're living or what is happening within us. Can we go from that angle, though, what we're talking about and blending those two things? Like, what do you see from your perspective in the mindset that keeps us from getting into that desperation if we're not talking about mental health?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, again, from our experience and financial firm, we talk
Hmm.
about the three-legged stool. We talk about your financial health, your physical health, and your mental health.
Right.
And they're all intertwined. And if one of those legs is short or broken, the stool's toppling over. And I
Right.
think we're so attuned to thinking about and making sure we address our financial health because we're
Yeah.
inundated, virtually every day about
Right.
making sure that you're financially secure, preparing yourself for
Hmm.
retirement, future goals. We're always inundated about our physical health. We all
Right.
know we should be going to the gym and exercising and doing all the things to stay physically fit and healthy from a physical standpoint. But for some reason, when it comes to our mental health, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I don't have to do anything for that. Well, we
Yeah.
do. We need to exercise that tool and that body part just the same way we'd exercise our physical being
Hmm.
to make sure that we're working at full capacity. And like you said, if there's a financial concern, then you may not feel well enough to or up to exercising, which your
Right.
physical health's going to go, and then your mental.
Hmm.
So it's all tied together, and we need to address all those things. And I,
Hmm.
I was talking to a young student yesterday who was
Hmm.
asking me about the profession, and he asked me a very interesting question about utilizing coaches. And
Mm.
he said, "Do you have a coach?" I said, "Yes, I do. I've had multiple ones over the years, and I kind of
Right.
change them every couple of years." And he's like, how impactful has that been? And I'm like, what I don't understand is, and this is the same way with mental health, when we're kids or we're parents that have kids, we'll go
Hmm.
out and hire, coaches to help our kids get better at soccer or
Right.
baseball or hockey.
Hmm.
We'll get them a tutor to get better at math or science or English.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, we graduate college or whatever, and we know everything. We don't need any
Right.
help. We don't need any coaches. We don't need anybody helping us with our mental acuity.
Yeah.
We don't need anybody helping us. But that's something that should always be there. There should be
Hmm.
some component of that in
Yeah.
order to help you be more successful, not only
Mhm.
financially, but mentally also and
Right.
physically. We hire trainers to physical body. Not why not hire a mental trainer at the same time? I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of value there, and it gets lost somewhere between being a kid and kind of entering the workforce. It kind of
Hmm.
we forget about it.
We do. We also tend to use excuses a whole lot, which absolutely wrecks our mindset. And the more that we build them, the more we believe them. And the more we believe them, the more our mindset tanks, and we can lead ourselves into a place of desperation and no way out. That's why I love that question. What brought you joy today? I know that's the center of a lot of the things that you do. Can we talk about joy for a minute? Because it really is the counter to suicide, right? When we are in that space of being filled mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, where we're like, you know what, good. Studies show that we have 90% of good things in our life and we have 10% of bad, but we focus on that 10. So can we talk from your angle about building that joy, about that question that you ask and center so much around?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we talk about joy and we talk about happiness, and to
Yeah.
me, happiness is almost like this unattainable thing that we're
Yeah.
always striving for. But joy is something that's tangible to some degree that we can feel, we can experience,
Hmm.
and it's something we can do on a daily basis. And it's not too dissimilar than from a like gratitude standpoint.
Right.
I look at every day in the morning when I set up my day. I
Mm.
write down one thing that I was joyful about from the day before. That's why we created this a joy journal for people to
Yeah.
start recording those things and be able to go back to them and read them when they're having a bad day, because it's going to happen. We're all going to have it. But like you said, we have to train our minds in a way that we're focusing on the 90% of the
Hmm.
good and the joyful stuff that's taking place in our lives, and not getting super hyper focused on the 10% of the bad. And
Right.
there are a lot of things that we're being inundated with on a daily basis that help us focus on the bad.
Yes.
Social media, for example, we're looking at other
Hmm.
people's good and comparing ourselves. That's bad,
Right.
because there's plenty of good in your life. So when we're talking with families that we work with, it's not just about reaching retirement from a financial standpoint, which is what a lot of advisors have a tendency to talk about. It's all
Right.
about the numbers.
Hmm.
For us, we feel the money is a tool to bring
Hmm.
joy to your life. So
Right.
how are we envisioning your retirement in a joyful manner? Are you going to have enough infrastructure, enough
Right.
hobbies that if you were to retire, that you're going to be able to fill up 40, 60 hours a week with joyful stuff, meaningful stuff that
Hmm.
you want to do? If not, maybe you slow down that path to retirement and ease
Right.
into it. Or maybe you're already there and you could put the stops on and you know exactly what you're going to do with every hour. But you have to have those joyful moments and those joyful ideas of how you're going to spend your life, because like
Hmm.
you said, you want to focus and be in that 90% zone, and
Yeah.
stay out of the 10% as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know the two, right? We know what it looks like to be in crisis and to feel like we can't get anywhere else, that this is the permanent state, like you talked about. And we also know what it feels like to lean into the moments that kind of catch your breath, or the moments that you go, I'm so glad that I was here. I'm so glad that I experienced that, where joy is a forward motion, a current feeling, and not something so far out in the horizon. Can you give us maybe some tools, some thoughts that you have on what you use or what you advise people on to get to that space? I know we have the financial, if we talk about the mindset so that we are
Mhm.
offering the counter to the thoughts of suicide.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like we said, we all know that we need to exercise in order to
Sure.
be healthy, right? We know what we have to do. And I don't think there's any magic thing that allows you to get that mindset right and do that.
Hmm.
But, so I'm going to probably say a lot of the same things that we already know and we've thought
Sure.
about, right? No, number one is eat, the food. The
Right.
food that we put in our body is so vitally important.
It is.
And it's very difficult these days, if you look at labels, to really put good food
Hmm.
into your body, but that's
Yeah.
important. Two is getting that exercise. I find it very helpful. I know if I go a couple of days without exercising, I'm not as joyful as those days that I do exercise.
Same.
I know it. And sometimes I need to put on the heavy metal music just to really, release. And some days it's,
Mhm.
yacht rock on Peloton. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be as aggressive. But, and then, I found, and it took me a long time, I meditate probably 4 or 5
Mhm.
times a week. And it took me a long time to actually embrace it, because I thought I was doing it wrong. I was like,
Yes.
I don't understand this. My mind's wandering all the time. And then
Mhm.
until about 3 or 4 people told me, hey, dummy, you're doing this right. Everybody's mind, you can't stop it.
You can't.
The only way you're going to stop it is by not living. So, that's
Right.
the only way. So you have to, your mind will wander, and you'll learn to kind of, approach it and get it
Mhm.
back on track again. And I've embraced it since then. And I find that extremely helpful. And
Right.
I think lastly, if you have infrastructure, if you have support, people that are close to you that you feel comfortable confiding in,
Yeah.
extremely helpful. If you don't have that, then go look for somebody to talk to. And maybe it's not, maybe the first person you find
Mhm.
may not be a good fit, and that's
Right.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think because the first person wasn't a good fit for you that this isn't for you. It may
Right.
take 3, 4, 5 people before you find that person that you're like, this person gets me. I feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
talking. And I think that there are a lot more tools these days, even
Yeah.
through our phones where we could do video chats, half-hour
Right.
calls with people. There's so many tools that's vitally helpful. And I think if you start implementing those few things, you'll start seeing improvement. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that you're going to start today, just like exercising, and see
Right.
the results tomorrow. It's something that you have to commit to, you have to do. And over the, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, certainly a year, you'll start seeing the benefits of taking that approach.
I want to add too, because a lot of times when people are in spaces that they just need a little bit extra, and maybe the finances aren't there to help them, go to your local library. There are so many books. They have so many people too that come and volunteer. Check your communities, check your city governments and ask if they have free resources and lean into these things that people are there to help. I know I go and volunteer down in one of the lowest economic spaces in Houston. I want to offer my services to them because they don't have access to it. So there's lots of different elements that you can tap into. And, meditation, it's free. It's not difficult. Like you just said, your mind is going to wander,
Right.
right? Moving your body, that's also free. You can go outside, right?
Mhm.
So there are many ways that we can kind of hit on those elements that you're talking about, your three-legged stool. I know that it's very easy to get into desperation. It's very easy, but there is always a way out of it. Always a way out of it. What would you like to leave people with when it comes to your experience, what you've created to help other people so that you didn't sit quietly, and really the things that you're doing right now to make sure that people hit on those three things that you are so most passionate about?
Yeah, so I think, I think people, the message I want to leave is,
Yeah.
you are important.
Mm,
And it's okay not to be okay.
yeah.
These are things that we hear a lot, and sometimes they go in one ear, out the other, or over our head because we hear them so often. But they
Right.
are so vitally true, right?
Right.
It's okay to not be okay from time to time. It's gonna happen. You
Hmm.
have to lean on those around you to help you. There's somebody out there that you can lean on, whether it's somebody in your circle or not in your circle or just
Hmm.
a stranger having a conversation sometimes can, just be the difference maker
Right.
in your life. And
Right.
it's okay. And, seek out the help, seek out the guidance. You don't have to, today doesn't have to be the last day. There are
Hmm.
people out there that care about you and would be willing and able to help you. And I think focusing on that joy and getting into a habit of gratitude and making sure that you're doing those things that we spoke about
Yeah.
is important. And these are things that we talk about with people all the time. Because
Yeah.
again, you can't, just like I said, you can't, it's a three-legged stool. You can't just focus even just on the mental part, right? The
Right.
mental health. You still have to take care of that physical and the financial. So make sure that you're addressing your whole self. And
Hmm.
if you're seeing a deficiency in an area, get help for that area, whichever one of
Right.
those three it is. And it's not a sign of weakness, it's actually a sign of strength that you're able
Hmm.
to go out and get that assistance and, just work on yourself. We're all works in progress
Hmm.
and, we all just want to get better. So, take the James Clear approach. Just get
Right.
1% better each day
Hmm.
and, feel a little bit more joyful 1% each day. And you'll be surprised where you can and will be, 6 months or a year from now.
Beautiful advice. 1%. That's all we need. Tell us a little bit about your podcast because you do bring those elements together because money is so much more than just paper. It's about security, it's about mindset, it's about mental health, it's about our emotional health. There's so many pieces to it. So tell us about your
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, so the podcast is the Miltin Money Mindset, and as it suggests, we talk about money.
Yeah.
We have a lot of first generation, even multi generational entrepreneurs that have built such hugely successful businesses and brands that you would know about.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of athletes. That's more of a personal preference of mine. I'm a big sports, specifically hockey. So I bring on a lot of people related to the sport of hockey. And then from a mindset standpoint, I enjoy talking to people who have different approaches to mindset coaches, mental health professionals, people
Right.
like yourself, and just exposing people to what it's all about. From a financial standpoint, it's not just the money; it's all the things together. We've
Yeah.
had some of the most successful, wealthy people who are miserable, who
Yeah.
tell you
Oh,
they were
yeah.
miserable until they figured out a way to fix their mindset. So,
Right.
money's not the answer. Mindset's not the answer. It's
Mhm.
really just being a well-rounded person. So we try to highlight a lot of these folks and a lot of these concepts on the show.
I love it. Larry, give that website again, if you would, for the suicide prevention and perhaps your website so that we can listen, so that we can have the resources as well that you provide.
Sure, I appreciate that. So, yeah, if you need to learn more, or you need resources, go to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Their
Mhm.
website is afsp.org. There's a ton of resources there that you can, look through and see what's pertinent to you.
Mhm.
And then our website, where your podcast will be housed, is the Miltin Money Mindset.com. You can also work your way through that website for my contact information if I can ever be of any assistance to you, not even just for the financial side of things, but if you're looking, having troubles finding what you're looking for on the AFSP website, need to be connected with somebody in your local community, I'd be happy to
Mhm.
do that as well.
Beautiful. So I ask every guest to end the podcast the exact same way, and I will ask this of you as well. And it is to offer to us, if you would, three things that you are most grateful for right now.
Oh, I mean, the number one is my family. My
Yeah.
family is my pride and joy. I am most grateful for them.
Mhm.
Secondly is my health, because I
Yeah.
don't think without that any of anything else could happen.
Right.
And thirdly, I guess this is quasi my family also. I am so grateful for the team that I have and the firm that I have created in Midland
Mhm.
Financial. I am so grateful for the people who are an extension of my family,
Mhm.
and I have the pleasure of working with each day.
Yeah. Beautiful gratitudes. Thank you for taking the time to, one, tell us your story. Two, for the work that you're doing in the community so that no one is left unheard. And thank you for the ideas of mindset. Sometimes we have to really get very simple in our thought processes in order to recalibrate. So even if it's something that you've heard here before, understanding that there's always a theme. So if it's working for a mass number of people, it might actually work for you too. So thank you for sharing those. I am much grateful for your time and for the energy and the thought processes that you brought us today.
Thanks, Danielle.
As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with this. We all go through struggles. No one's journey is without challenge, and sometimes life can feel like you are just carrying everything, this heavy weight. But I want you to remember this. No matter what you're facing, there is someone who cares about you, even if it's someone you haven't even met yet. Reach out to me on social media, through email. Get your life together, girl, now at gmail.com. I'm going to answer you. It may take a few days, but I promise I'm going to get back to you. You're never alone in this world, just like Larry said. And there are people out there that want to help you. We're going to put all of the information that Larry gave to us in the show notes, so you're going to have access to that too. But if you ever need immediate support, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 1-800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-8255. That can be your first step in finding out that you do have help and that you do deserve it. And then find somebody that you trust, whether that's me or someone else in your local area that can help you help yourself, help you understand that the things that you have experienced are not the end all be all, because there is someone who wants to support you, remind you that you matter, and I want you to know that you can get through anything that you have been experiencing or anything that is yet to come. I want to thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you are not following me on social media, please do so at getyourlifetogethergirl.com. That's on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Lemonade, Threads, Pinterest, Insight Timer. You can join me each Monday live at 9 a.m. Central on Insight Timer, where we talk about different techniques and tools to help better yourself and to grow as a human each and every single day. Those are free resources available to you. Check out danielleavan.com, where you can book a one-on-one session with me in increments of 30, 60, 90 minutes, where we can work together from anywhere in the world, done right from your phone or your computer. I hope that you understand that you are never alone. So until the next time that we meet again, please take care of yourself and others.